Every single second you were making some kind of choices. If you had made different choices, you would now be sitting in a different place, just like me. That's why predestination is all relative. Of course, there is probability, yes, but in the end, we are the ones who choose. Only when the master sees that you are ready and that you will use it correctly, only then will you receive it and he will upgrade you to a new level. Your task is simply to reach that state to be ready to accept it. Because you could read all the books in the entire world, but it would still remain philosophy. But when you actually live through it, go through it, that's when it becomes your own experience.
I really wanted to have this conversation and this special meeting today, because when Marina told me that she had met the most powerful healer she had ever encountered in her entire life, of course, it was my immediate dream to finally meet you. But I was a little bit intimidated by you, I thought. The most powerful healer must surely be some important lady. So, I'm really glad that you are just the way you are. I hope for a long friendship. Let's start with how you first felt this power within yourself.
The thing is, since childhood I started experiencing some very strange phenomena that required answers. First of all, from a very young age, I would be thrown out of my body. As a little girl, I clearly remember I would lie down and I would leave my body. I would fly around the room, for example. I don't really remember my motives at that time anymore, but I remember very clearly that it happened. This was when I was very young, around 3 years old. And then, when I became a teenager, these out-of-body experiences started happening spontaneously. It would just happen to me spontaneously. I could be like walking down the street and this process would start. It was really scary. And as a teenager, I guess I started to develop some critical thinking. So I began to block it because it was really scary. So I had some kind of...
So your body would just shut off?
My body would faint. It would just shut down. Or rather, how should I put it? I would notice it right away and wouldn't let it happen to me. And I kept it at bay with my prayers. I would start praying. My great-grandmother taught me how to pray. And surprisingly, it actually helped. I completely stopped. I blocked all of it somehow. So in this way, I was expressing my intention, like that's it, stop. And accordingly, I started having questions. What is this? What is happening to me? Then I started trying to control this process of leaving, astral projection. Yeah. There were different experiences as well. I realized that I needed a teacher, I needed a guru, I needed someone who was enlightened, who understood what to do about all this. Back then there wasn't really any internet and there was very little information available. So everything I did was through empirical means. I started meditating very early, would go off into my own worlds and began exploring all of this there. And so I always had doubts. Was it true or not? And then at a certain point I found a guru. Let's put it this way, as he later told me, I'm fishing you, meaning he caught me like a little fish. He already knew when I was supposed to come to him. And it all happened through some very strange mystical ways. But in the end it happened. I ended up meeting him, and that's when the real intensive growth began.
And where was he? How did you find him? Was he a foreigner?
Yes, he was from Indonesia. A realized master. He passed away a few years ago. But I ultimately managed to receive exactly what I was destined to get from him.
Did you go to Indonesia?
Yes, I went to Indonesia. So somehow I received information about him and I understood that it was Indonesia. I arrived in Bali, started, as they say, sniffing the air there, searching. But nothing really happened. I was just bouncing around Ubud. I felt that there was something here for me. I had all sorts of dreams. Yes, I saw a mountain, a volcano, and I saw an Asian-looking man beneath it. He told me, I've been waiting for you for a long time. When will you come? As it turned out, he was my guru. His ashram was located right on Mount Agung. He was sitting there waiting for me. In the end, I didn't find him the first time. I went back home and I got sick. I got very sick. I had terrible, just unbearable headaches. I couldn't even open my eyes. And so I lay there for a month, only getting up occasionally. My husband would drive me. I went through various tests and MRIs, They checked the blood vessels in my brain, but they couldn't find anything at all. Everything was clear for me, but the headaches were just unbearable. And
How old were you at that point?
well, I was over 30. And in the end, it turned out that at some point it was New Year's, everyone was celebrating, but my head was like that, and then I realized I needed to fly there. First, I flew to Thailand, and I started to feel better there. Then, all of a sudden, as I was walking, I suddenly felt really unwell, as if there was some kind of interference with my energy system. I felt it, and right away, like an image popped up, bam! I realized I needed to fly to Bali. And I remembered that time when I first heard about him, just in passing, about my guru, and I started searching for that information again. The next day I was already on a flight. But I should mention that at that time the Volcano Agung, where the ashram is actually located, was erupting. And it wasn't affected. The eruption went in the opposite direction. The ashram moved to a safe place. I arrived and right away I saw him. He smiled like that, and from then on things took off. The next day my headache was completely gone.
Did he say something to you? Did you realize that this was it?
He said, "Welcome, I've been waiting for you." All of this seemed very strange to me. Everything they were doing there seemed strange to me. My God, what are you doing here? It's just some kind of nightmare. What are you doing here?
Are they Buddhists or what?
No, they're not Buddhists. So since it's Bali, it's all a mix there, Hinduism and Buddhism together. But he is my master in his own right. He has a very interesting story. He was not born into the Brahmin caste, and their caste system is also very strict. But he was elevated to Brahmin. This is actually a truly exceptional case, because when he became enlightened, when he attained his realization at the age of 33, he had a serious accident, and after that he became fully enlightened. He was elevated to the rank of Brahmin, so he was recognized as a truly realized master. Brahmins would come to him and kiss his feet. He was a very important figure for Indonesia, because I was once at his birthday and all the heads of the regions of Indonesia gathered there. Indonesia is a huge country, keep that in mind. Even the president was supposed to come, but he just had some kind of foreign visit to another country.
Listen, how did you, a Russian woman, end up in a foreign monastery, in a literal sense?
Well, if you look closely at the situation, he was actually deeply committed to the idea of uniting both the western and eastern parts of the world. And his ashram was international. There was a very large international community there. People came from all over the world. Australians, Americans, Europeans, and Asians. There were also people from the Arabic countries.
And did you stay there for a long time?
I was there on and off, yeah? Because I was still living a very busy and active social life. I was running my own business, I had a family, and I still do today. But in spite of all that, following the moment that I first met him, my family, quite miraculously, did not attempt to stand in my way or oppose me at all. They didn't prevent me from going there, staying for long periods and doing my practices. On the contrary, even my husband, my son and my parents somehow changed their attitude. Apparently, they saw some kind of inner change in me, and somehow they accepted it. They saw that all sorts of things started happening around me. More and more people started being drawn toward me. I was already doing some things there, quite naturally.
But what do you mean by things? You had closed off that ability of yours to leave your body, right?
Yes, but at that time, everything had already opened up again. So I continued all of my explorations. With him present, I wasn't afraid. It was with him that I learned how to do it correctly and safely. He showed all of this to me.
I see.
The main thing here is to have a reason. Why do you need to leave your body? If you can answer that question for yourself. If you have some tasks that you need to solve, then yes. Because it's quite energy consuming, you have to understand that, right? And you need to understand what you might encounter there, where you might end up.
Laws of this world?
Yes.
So he explained those laws to you?
Well, it's not exactly that he explained them. He had his own approach. He was a practitioner. He would say, all philosophy, everything, just get it out of your head. Go straight into action right now. And then whatever you don't understand, you can fill in with knowledge. because you could read all the books in the entire world, but it would still remain philosophy. But when you actually live through it, go through it, that's when it becomes your own experience. And if something is unclear, then you can simply add some understanding later. And even then, he said, it's not a fact that you'll find the right interpretation of it in a book.
Did you feel his presence when you were conducting these experiments of yours?
Of course, absolutely. I had a very clear, deeply personal connection with him.
So you located your teacher?
Yes, I was very lucky because now I look at many masters who come and people are just so completely lost. While we possess good qualities, opportunities, and abilities, there are still certain things, such as particular levels on our developmental path, that we must navigate entirely on our own. And then there are those for which a direct transmission from the master is absolutely necessary, because such knowledge cannot be transmitted through any other channels. Only when the master sees that you are ready and that you will use it correctly, only then will you receive it and he will upgrade you to a new level. Your task is simply to reach that state to be ready to accept it. Because it's not that the master gives or doesn't give. He gives only when you are ready.
So it's a kind of predestination. In a way, that's what it turns out to be. Look, you were given this from the very beginning, since childhood. Somewhere out there was your teacher, who apparently was also destined for you because you started dreaming about him before you even met him. So it actually turns out that you have already came here, and a very special kind of spirit incarnated in this body.
Well, you see, it's also just a matter of choice. We live in a multivariant world. I could have chosen any of them, but I chose this way. And really, everything that happens to us, even the fact that you and I are sitting here right now, you being exactly who you are, at this very point where you are now, is only thanks to the choices you've made throughout your entire life. Every single second, you were making some kind of choices. If you had made different choices, you would now be sitting in a different place, just like me. That's why predestination is all relative. Of course, there is probability, yes, but in the end, we are the ones who choose.
You said that he actually gave you the chance to make your own mistakes.
Absolutely so.
Were there moments when you really got into trouble somewhere and he had to pull you out?
I almost died. It happened twice.
So you got carried away with something?
No, it was a real experience. You go through it or don't. But you have a choice whether to go into it or not. I had a choice.
You went?
I did. And
How was the experience? Can you tell us?
no. I won't say simply because people start to try on someone else's experiences, they start trying to go down the same path. And in doing so, we deprive them of the opportunity to walk their own path, because everyone has their own door and their own goal. And the mistake is precisely that we try to go through someone else's doors towards someone else's goals. That's why nothing works out. That's the only reason I don't want to share. Something like that.
Well, I remember how Marina Mayer, yes, she talked about when she wanted to have this enlightenment experience. She read and listened to all the stories about how others became enlightened. Someone slipped and fell in a bathhouse. Someone else had it happen in some other funny way.
Not funny at all.
Yes, but she still got there in her own way, right? On the other hand, maybe this diverse palette of experiences still provides a broader perspective, and at least a person comes to understand that it's possible, for example.
It is certainly possible, yes. But my guru said, and my current guru, Sadhguru, says the same thing, that you really should not do it. You can share some kind of more general version of it, let's say. I completely agree with them. Because, let's put it this way, it actually hindered me when I tried to repeat someone else's experience. I tried to get into it. Later, I realized that I only have my own individual way out to where I need to go. I just need to find it, not follow someone else's path.
You said that Sadhguru is now your guru.
Yes?
And how did that happen?
That's actually an interesting story too. At that time, my guru was still alive. Ratu, his name is Ratu Bagus. One time I was sitting in meditation in the lotus pose. I should mention I was already working with people. Suddenly, a man manifests himself right there before me. I see him as vividly as I see you now. He was just standing there looking at me and smiling. Usually, when someone appears in the astral, I immediately tense up. Who are you? What do you want? But this time I felt completely relaxed, like a sense of recognition. Everything just felt good and easy. I just looked at him, that's all. Then when I came out of the meditation, I was like, okay, what was that? Who was that? I realized that I didn't know who it was. So I decided that if I needed to, the time would come when I would find out. And I just forgot about it. And I only found out about it 6 months later that he was Sadhguru when he was already working with me full on in the astral.
So he started coming to you?
Yes, he would come over to visit, assign me various exercises and tasks, patiently teach me and show me things.
And how did you find out who it was?
I just happened to see a photo or a video of him somewhere from someone. I said, who is this? I said, I know him. He said, what do you mean? Who is this? Sadhguru? I said, no, I don't know him. Well, that's when I found out.
And what did you do? Did you go to meet him?
Not right away, because he said that now is not the time and there's no point. It's actually easier for me to work with you like this because I'm all tied up. There are always thousands of people around me and my schedule isn't very flexible. At that time, I didn't know that. To be honest, I didn't have, this urge to just immediately go and look for him. I actually had a very real connection with him even without that. But it happened about a year later. After we had already been working closely together, I went to see him. I received direct transmission from him.
So what about recognition? I'm curious how you two met. When people communicate on a subtle level and then suddenly it's like, well, hello there.
How? I just went there to his ashram. There were various events happening there. It was during Mahashivratri. He had a program called Grace of Yoga.
There was a huge crowd there, as I understand, during Mahashivratri.
I was, let's say, actually standing very nearby. That's just how it happened.
Did he talk to you?
Well, in a way, yes. We talked, we asked questions, and he answered. Then he gave initiations. He just came up right next to me, stood there, looked at me, and everything inside me just lit up. That's how it happens somehow.
Quite naturally then?
Well, yes. I haven't been forcing anything for a long time now. I just go with the flow. Everything always happens the way it should. My first guru gave me some of the main fundamental things. That is, I had the opportunity to be with him. To be very close, yes, and he really, you could say, raised me. He nurtured me, so to speak.
A student worthy of the teacher. And when he was leaving, was there some kind of transmission?
Yes, there was.
And what happened?
I wouldn't like to talk about that right now for a certain reason.
Do you still continue to interact with Sadhguru now?
Yes, indeed, it continues. It actually turned out that I realized I was merely being handed over from one to another, because he appeared exactly a year before my teacher left his body. I was already aware of all this at that time, because a wise master from the Altai region, through the mysterious will of fate, had revealed the entire truth to me a full year before my guru departed from this world. I was already starting to understand that something like this was happening, but I decided not to push it or try to figure anything out with my mind.
You watched what happened.
I was simply going with the flow, doing what was required of me. Everyone does their own work.
Everyone does their own work. Do you mean sensitivity to the outside world, a response to what it offers you? You say in the flow. What does it mean to be in the flow?
I clearly understand the assignment, exactly what you need and where you need to go.
Is it a thought form?
Like a knowing.
Knowing?
Yes.
Well then, you probably know who you are, where you're from, and what your purpose is in this incarnation. Why are you being passed from one guru to another like that? What does it mean?
Well, let's put it this way. I think I'm gradually getting closer to such an understanding, a comprehensive one, yes. Little by little, information was gathered, like building blocks.
Well, at this moment, what do you know about yourself?
At this very moment, I realized that I don't even know if I can talk about this or not. Just yesterday, Maria confirmed this. Yeah, that I am neither born nor do I die. I enter the body after it has grown a bit, and I leave before it dies, at the present moment. Because I have certain tasks set before me, that need to be done on time.
So like a mission? So you came here to Earth for some kind of incarnation, some purpose? So this isn't an ordinary human life, just gaining experience, solving karmic tasks.
You know, right now is just such a time when, in fact, there are a lot of opportunities to combine things, generally speaking, for the most part. Of course, maybe this... You see, my life is not just about being in a family. I am fortunate to have a truly wonderful family, and I live a very ordinary social life. But nevertheless, I find that I spend the vast majority of my time working. I am deeply involved in research and in communications at many various levels. Right now, I'm also in a period where I am constantly studying, developing what I do, and the full range of what I am truly capable of. That is, I am actively strengthening and refining my experience and my knowledge, still acquiring even more skills, combining everything together, experimenting, looking closely at the results, and collecting my own statistics. And what this will turn into next, we'll see.
Is there anything you're interested in right now? Are you practicing energy healing? What else?
Yes. Healing is one of the most significant ways for me right now. To test all of this, that is, the knowledge that, let's say, I have already activated, along with the understanding of how everything works and how we can influence our own physical body, for example. It's a way to bring all this here and see the real result. So I'm keeping my own statistics right now. I'm deeply involved in energy healing. You know, I've already told you about this. How we can evaluate what we do based on the results.
Yes.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
I know that you work with very difficult cases.
I work with different cases, difficult or not. You see, for each person, their own case is the most important. Whether it is an individual seeker on their own personal journey, or perhaps, for instance, a dedicated doctor who will later go on to save thousands of people. It's important, isn't it, to help them? And right now they might have some kind of emotional trauma, and they just need to get through it so that they can fully realize themselves and contribute what they are meant to bring into this world. Someone might have a serious illness, and let's say right now they still have a chance to somehow realize something, to correct it, yes, and to restore the body, not to lose it.
How do you work? Are there people who use laying on of hands or something like that? What do you do?
No, I don't work with my hands in a sense. I work through the Akash. It's a kind of sphere of existence, like air. Here we just don't see it.
Is it a library of information or what is it?
I wouldn't call it that. It's precisely like an element. It's the fundamental element. If we're talking about matter, it's the fundamental element that contains all of the programs of all matter that exists, including our physical and non-physical bodies, the subtle bodies. It's something somewhat comparable to the Matrix, only, let's say, significantly more intricate. A mechanism on one hand, and on the other hand, it's a much broader concept.
So you enter this system and retrieve detailed information there. Or what? How does it work?
It is actually possible not just to receive information. I have the ability not just to receive and process information, but also to actively influence it if necessary.
So you make corrections there.
So it actually turns out that yes, I can make correction, but only where there is deformation, because even the Akash can be deformed by external influences. For example, by radiation, just to give a simple example.
Seriously? So that's how it works?
Yes. And why do you think they're now talking about banning flights and other things like that? They also disrupt the Akash with their emissions in some way. So there are many different ways how it can be influenced.
So it's not sustainable for our environment. The fact that our very progress is starting to negatively impact these subtle realms and humans.
Yes, in a certain way, yes, it can definitely affect the Akash. I don't know. I can't claim that it affects things as a whole in some way. Although I think that it probably does, because our Earth is also alive. It's also an organism, so to speak. It also has its own Akash, just like our body does. You can understand everything else by looking at the example of a single cell. That is, if a single individual cell, its Akash, which contains the entire program of that cell, changes due to external influences, it loses its original properties, becomes deformed, or eventually dies. So we can conclude that this naturally has a very significant and measurable effect. And when we carefully restore certain key environmental parameters, provided that it is not already too late to intervene, we can successfully restore the system to its original state.
Does the collective consciousness also affect this? Or is it a person's consciousness naturally, right? How does all of this interact with each other?
Of course, it has an effect. Now we're starting to move a bit into a different topic, right? It's not so one-sided. It's not just one side of the coin and the other, It's a multi-dimensional structure and everything matters. Nothing can be left out. That's why when you work with a person, it's very important to work with them in a comprehensive way. That is not just on the Akashic level. They also need to pay attention to their physical body, right? They need to take care of their temple. Not treat it carelessly, so to speak, but understand how this system works. Because our body is nothing other than a system, a chemical laboratory. It has already been scientifically proven that a single emotion can change the body's chemistry in just a few seconds. Absolutely. You understand? So, understanding this, we just need to convey to people the knowledge of how to treat their bodies from the very beginning, how it works, so that at least on this level they don't harm it. Our bodies, our organism already have built-in programs for self-restoration and self-healing. That is, we already have all of this. The main thing here is to treat it properly and to activate these programs correctly. As mentioned, when a person is born, even without a past life, they automatically take on the karma of their lineage, and every cell remembers it. What was in your family line? That's many people.
It's all because we enter into the physical world here on Earth, and that's why the spirit makes a kind of agreement with the family line. Is that how it works?
You could put it that way, for understanding's sake.
These are a few pieces of our preliminary data in order to incarnate here.
Each soul chooses a particular family line for specific reasons. What experiences the soul wants to go through, or something to let go of, something to strengthen, something to soften. It depends on karma. So we need to understand that essentially our essence is not this body. But we have this body which we have borrowed from the earth.
Hey, you invader, go away from here.
Bandit.
We were talking about yoga. I just thought about the fact that most people are so used to thinking that yoga is exercise that it actually refers to a workout related to the physical body.
Well, of course it's related to the physical body, but here it's not about physical exercises. The most important thing here is to activate the right energy in the body. That's the main goal.
But few people teach this and do it correctly.
Well, nevertheless, such masters do exist. You have to look for them.
Do you practice?
Yes. I've been practicing for many years, every morning. I sometimes do it in the evening because at this point in my life I spend a lot of time working, or when I am away traveling, when accordingly I don't have much time for it. But I make it a point to regularly go to the ashram as well. There I can devote more time specifically to this. It becomes stronger. In general, the task of yoga is to give you the opportunity to go beyond this physicality. You see, beyond physical limitations. That's really the point of all this. To go beyond and understand how everything really is.
Well, millions of people, yoga has become popular. They go to gyms, work out, and call it yoga.
Well, at the very least, they become healthier. At least their direction is right. That's the minimum. And at best, but how do you
reach that state which is true yoga, the very reason it was given?
Our problem is that we keep looking outside ourselves, right? But in reality, everything is inside us. That's exactly what I was telling you, that we already have all the recovery programs and everything we could possibly need. We already have it all. We need to understand that we can find all of this right here. If you turn your focus from the outside inward, that's already the first step. Our problem is that people can't, for example, relax their bodies. We'll even get to that, like how do I learn to meditate, that sort of thing.